Imagine the year is 2005 and you have to add some functionality to your website. Well, it just so happens that Google made this thing called Ajax pretty popular, and now you can send and receive information from a server without fully refreshing your page. Mind-blowing, right? So, for the first time in your life, you are able to build UI that renders directly on the client. Of course, most of your website is still rendered on the server, but that's not really an issue. Actually, 20 years from now, in 2023, you'll find out that using the server to generate most of your web content is by far the best approach. Things are not all great though. There are very few front-end libraries to work with in 2005. Actually, when you think about it, the front-end idea is not really an established concept yet. So even though there are some options like Dojo which simplify your work with a DOM, the chances are you'll use plain old JavaScript and some in-house framework when working on UI. There is no module system, no linting, and no language is compiled into JavaScript. In all honesty, even the ES5 release is a few years away, so most likely the code you are seeing right now on the screen would probably not run reliably in the good old Internet Explorer. And since we are talking browsers, here are some good news for you. In 2005, you don't need to worry about multi-browser support since Internet Explorer has more than 90% of the market. So, you write your Ajax calls, you manually register event handlers, and you are working directly with the DOM. Life is pretty easy. Let's now fast forward a couple of years to 2007. The front-end space is still in its infancy, but there is one major release that changes your day-to-day life. This library called jQuery is getting a lot of traction. Objectively, it doesn't really change the way you build websites, but it drastically improves the development experience. Here is another nice FYI for you. If you think jQuery is a thing of the past, you are, well, wrong. The harsh reality is that jQuery is still used in around 80% of all the websites out there. So how would your codebase change with the addition of this library? Well, on one hand, working with DOM elements becomes really easy. You can seamlessly add or remove elements, style or move them around. Also, you get better event handling and delegation support. Again, overall, there are no major differences between your old codebase and this one. Sure, things are more concise and tidy, but this comes at a cost. You are now increasing the JavaScript bundle sizes sent to the client, and just a year from now, in 2008, Chrome will be released, and that will change everything. It turns out people like the seamless user experience and the fast response times offered by websites leveraging JavaScript's power. This is also the last time web development is an easy, straightforward process. Enjoy it, because the next 10 years will be a mess. So let's jump to 2010. A lot of things happened in the past couple of years. Most notably, the Chrome browser and Node.js were released. So now you have more firepower when it comes to running JavaScript in the browser, but for the first time, you also can run JavaScript on the backend. Due to its popularity, people start building languages on top of JavaScript, and various useful libraries emerge. However, the real breakthrough in the ecosystem, the idea that will disrupt web development forever, is this new notion called the front-end framework. If users like the seamless experience offered by running logic in the browser on top of a sync Ajax request, why not move all the logic in the browser? So this is the year when frameworks such as Backbone or AngularJS are released. You are probably a bit reluctant at first, but then, all of a sudden, everybody around you talks about Google's AngularJS. So you end up learning about data bindings, controllers, directives, and more. These ideas start growing on you, and in a few months, you end up fully rewriting your server-side rendered website into this cool new architecture called single-page application. Sure, it takes an eternity to load your app, but once all the JavaScript is downloaded in the browser, boy is the experience smooth. And, just like that, everybody became a front-end developer or a full-stack developer. Some of us moved away from fetching data from the database to fetching data from REST APIs. We all are convinced that this is the best way to build apps moving forward, and we are gladly leaving server-side rendering in the rearview mirror. As you probably know already, for us developers, things will only go downhill from here. So let's take a few steps into the future until 2016. Remember when we all thought that building single-page applications with AngularJS was a good idea? Well, we were all wrong. It turns out AngularJS had a lot of flaws, and the team behind it moved to rebuild the entire framework from scratch with no backwards compatibility. On top of that, they are now using TypeScript instead of JavaScript, so make a mental note of this since we'll all end up making this transition sooner or later. Also, Angular is not the only player in the space anymore. Frameworks such as Vue.js or React are gaining a lot of traction, And in the past 5 years, libraries such as Knockout.js went through their entire lifespan, from release to this is a good idea, to maybe this is not such a good idea, to we need to come up with something else. Out of all this noise, you probably ended up choosing React, which is, to this day, by far the most popular UI library, after jQuery of course. So here you are again, rewriting your web app in yet another UI library. React comes with a lot of interesting ideas like JSX or the Virtual DOM, and for the next few years, it will continue innovating in this space and will act as a major influence for other frameworks and libraries. However, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. It is around this time the term JavaScript fatigue is coined, and people are slowly starting to be overwhelmed by the various concepts, ideas, libraries and frameworks they need to know to keep up with the front-end standards. However, if we take a step back and look at where we are, the path moving forward is pretty clear. Building single-page applications is fairly easy these days, there are a lot of libraries we can work with, and there is a lot of effort invested in tooling and optimizing bundle sizes. Don't worry though, we'll jump ahead in time in 2022 and we'll find out that we were again
wrong.
So remember that time in 2010 when we all thought it would be a good idea to move away from the server-side rendering process and do all the heavy lifting in the browser? Well, that was not the brightest idea. With frameworks like Astro or Quick, we are now slowly moving back to an architecture where the power of the server is leveraged to deliver faster, slimmer applications, ready to be executed on all types of handheld devices, regardless of your internet connection speed. So, if you were to start developing the same website from 20 years ago today, you'd probably pick up a framework such as Astro, which can handle both static content generation and server-side rendering for you, and pair it with a lightweight UI library like Solid.js to sprinkle in the necessary behavior. TypeScript is pretty much the de facto solution when it comes to programming languages, and the browsers are way better at handling DOM updates and providing tools such as the Fetch API for async calls to the server. If you've made it this far, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Until next time, thank you for watching.